The introduction is like this, that first of all, the Rebbe's Torah is not just a nice shtickle Torah. First, let's understand, all Torah, there's no such a thing as Torah that doesn't have, the world was created with Torah, and Torah is automatically, even if you're learning Shoshanag as a para, mazik, nizik, and it seems like these are just halachas and ways of how to go about in a Torah way in a certain nakuda in life, but it's not just having an effect on that nakuda. The ma'or, the pnimiyah shabai, is machzal mutav, brings a person closer to the Eibishter. So that's any Torah. What's unique about the Rebbe's Torahs, and I say the Rebbe, if anybody has any objection to it, I'll change it to Reb Nachman. I have no problem. But it doesn't make a difference. He's Rabbeinu. He's the Rebbe of Gans Klal Yisrael. Because the Rebbe's Torahs was not just written in a way of a generalization, and he took a topic and he generalized, and Memela, everybody could find themselves in a very general place. The Rebbe's Torahs are very, very specific, and they talk to each person as if the Rebbe is talking to you yourself. The question is how you approach the Torah. If you come to the Torah as, okay, let me see, what does Reb Nachman say on Parshas Achremas? Let me go to the Mafteach, at the back. There's 4 or 5 Torahs. I'm going to pick the one that's juicy enough or talks to me, that's in a topic that's going to talk to me. And I'm going to apply myself to that Torah, and then he will also talk to you, but perhaps he'll talk to you just like you open up any sefer that you're looking on the Parshas of Shavuot. You want to see a vart. So Reb Nachman says a different vart. Yeah, and sometimes you'll be wowed. The teretz is because you're opening the sefer al daita the hachi, that come wow me. Let me see what you got. You're not saying it, but that's the approach. The approach is, the Rebbe says it in Torah of Gimel, but our Maili Yisrael is Ameids v'lirda v'chamar shchoira ba'oifen shamar shchoira v'atzvus yisapech atzma l'toich Simcha. What does that mean? I'm just bringing it as a mashal. I'm not going into the Torah. The mashal is that it depends how you approach. How are you going to approach the Yagam v'anocha? It's a ba'oifen. It's on a oifen. The same thing as the Rebbe's Torah. And I don't know if anybody, I don't know most of you, and I don't know where you're coming from. I don't know what your journey is, and I certainly don't know what your connection to Reb Nachman is. But whatever it is, and even if you're already connected to Reb Nachman, you need to double down. The ones, it's easier for the person who is not connected to Reb Nachman to surrender than the person who's connected to Reb Nachman, because the person who's connected thinks he's got it already. And trust me, take it from a guy who's been in this space since I'm born. So I also thought I was connected to Reb Nachman. And every day I'm Megala, every single day I'm Megala that I wasn't connected. I'm not connected. And every day I need to surrender again because I don't own it. It's not, Reb Nachman doesn't belong to me. You understand? Reb Nachman is talking to me, and he's the Roifa Agadol. The Rebbe said he's the Roifa Agadol. And he's here to heal all of our spiritual challenges, all of our emotional challenges, and all of our physical challenges. And the Rebbe saw every single neshama, every one of us, every single, and you're going to say, yeah, all that say, yeah, but this was a tzaddik miyuchad. This was a tzaddik miyuchad v'haraya, he took responsibility. Which tzaddik in the world, in the history, tell me, one that took responsibility and was maftiach, that just come to my caver, and they didn't even say, talk to the story, come to my caver and say, think a bit l'chtilim, I'll take you out of shol tachtis umitachtav. You know, anybody know what shol tachtis is? Sometimes, but mitachtav, the Rebbe said, Afila ova kol ha-Torah kula shmoina meyes pamim. Even a person who is over kol ha-Torah kula 800 times, even that person I could give a ticket to. It was a slang that he said, but he meant to say even the lowest Yid in the world. And the problem is that we recognize that, but we all think in spirituality, the bigger challenge is when we're spiritual. When we're not spiritual, that's why I said the guy who's not connected sometimes is much easier to open up and feel the connection than the person who's connected, because there is I have some. What do you mean? I'm learning for 20 years already. What do you mean? I know I learned to finish Jas. Rab Nachman has what to say to me. Rab Nachman has what to say to every single soul, and the same exact phrase can talk to you and you and you and you, and it'll have different meaning. So the tachlis of what we're trying to do in this koil is to not just learn Rab Nachman's Torah as a vart, but to surrender. And even if you're not open to Rab Nachman to be the tzaddik emes, for the moment that you're sitting here, in the time that you're sitting here, surrender. You know something? For this, and when I close the sefer, I'm back Litvak. I'm back Gera. I'm back what I am. It's okay. Don't worry. I'm not going to be brainwashed and captured because Nachman Fried came here and he said that, because he's a missionary, he is, Breslova, and Memela, mi yoima. Yeah, he said, okay, mi yoima. So I'm asking the Olam to open up Torah Chav Gimel, since the reason why I'm saying it, I would have really started to look at halachos because that's where I am right now. After 2 months of learning Torah Chav Gimel Chav Daled, and I want to tell you something. I learned Torah Chav Daled is one of the most famous. Everybody knows Mitzvah G'dayla is Simcha Tomid. It's one of the most famous Torahs in Likutei Moharan. Everybody, the phrase Mitzvah G'dayla is Simcha Tomid is the most famous Torah. I must have learned it in my life 100 times. I don't want to be maxim. 50 times. 50 times in my life that I went through the Torah. Everybody knows the Torah, and we learned it as a Sikha, because it seems like a Sikha. Every single syllable, not word, syllable, every ois is meduyik. First of all, the Rebbe said it, that every his Torahs are b'mida u'b'mishko, and efshel dagdik kemikra, just like a pasuk in Chumash. That's what he said. So again, we're surrendering, right? Everybody, we came to the platform. First platform is surrender. For now, don't worry, we're gonna go back to who we were in a half hour. But right now, we're surrendering. So every word is b'mida, and even the Torahs that seem to be sichadik. If anybody learns sichas around, this Torah has the flavor of a sicha, not as a Torah. But every word is meduyik, and we have to, and not every word is meduyik. We have to search for the message, not just the vart. What's the message, and how is the Rebbe talking to me? Now, let's just understand the platform of opening to the Torah is. By the way, one more point I wanted to say. We said, the Rebbe said, come to my kever. He didn't talk about learning his Torah. But the Rebbe also said, Iker atzadik hu Torasek, which means Uman is the tafel. The Iker way of connecting to the tzaddik is through his Torah. So Uman, where he said, I'll take you out from Sholtachtos and Mitachtov, is from the tafel. Can you imagine? So I want to say that perhaps, again, this is a vart, but it's not and I have no basis to my own thing, that, and I'm sharing it from my own experience. I always understood the Rebbe's Avtocha and the responsibility they took for us, that you come to my cave, I'll take you out, that in Yenevelt, after we finish our journey in life, when we come there and they're going to bring in, and they're bringing the big scale, and what that scale is going to look like. But the Rebbe is going to come advocate for us. He took achrayus. He's going to come. But I didn't understand that he meant in this world, not just in the next world. Vad in the next world, he's going to come to us. But he's giving us remedies to take us out of Shol Tachtis and Mitachtov in this world, because we all have a Shol Tachtis and a Mitachtov. Everybody has that. So the Rebbe, and the only way that you can get to that is when you start looking, opening space, and you look and you say, Rebbe, okay, I believe for this half hour that you're talking to my neshama. And if you're talking to my neshama, I'm open for surgery right now. Talk to me, not wow me, not let me see what you have to say. I want to listen to what you have to say as if I'm sitting with you and you're talking to me. I'm a mailer. If I have a question, there's no such a thing as a stupid question. There's no such a thing like when in yeshivas, there's a kasha. There's no such thing, senishkan kasha. No such thing in the Kutimran. If it bothered you, it's a kasha. And there's a teretz. Not always will you get to the teretz, but there's always a kasha. Always. There's no such thing unless your mamish don't know ever. But if you had a question, yes, it's a question, and you shouldn't be ashamed. Rabbi, I don't understand. You know how many times I get stuck in the Torah and I say, Rabbi, I don't understand, and mamish don't understand what you're saying. I don't understand what you're saying. Please enlighten me. 5 days later, something hits you, and all of you moved on, and all of a sudden you go back. And that's one of the klalim. Anybody learn the Chai klalim on how to learn Be'iyim? I'll give you on Torah Samachal. I'll give you, even though you're not learning Torah. I don't want you to learn Torah Samachal yet. I think it should stay with Chav Gimel and Chav Daled right now. But we printed in English the Chai Kolam in English, and it's very good. Anybody who wants to know how one of the biggest klal, and from the Chai Kolam, there's 18 Kolam. The biggest klal is Mineu Beg, because the Reb Nosson explains that the Rebbe's Torahs are written in many Torahs. This, not this particular Torah, but most bigger Torahs. The Rebbe, each sif is composed of 4 different ideas that the Rebbe goes from one idea to the other, and then he knips it all together in one sif, and then he goes to the next sif, and he goes again 3-4 different ideas, knips them together, and then he takes and he does this keseder, and then he takes it all and brings it all together. So the Meneu Bey is that many times you'll have in Sif Aleph a question, and you got stuck by the question. You were Masamic, you left the question. And in Sif Hey, the Rebbe is going to say some kind of a word, and the word's going to reflect back, whoa, if in this theme he said this, I can reflect back into this theme, and perhaps this is what he means here. And it's not just to have the satisfaction of the brain stimulation of wow, he's wow. Yeah, you're definitely going to come to that, no question. Anybody who liked a nice Stira Rambam and a good Rab Naftali Trump on a good Chakira or Rab Chaim, you're going to be brain blown away. But he's going to stimulate your heart. He's going to open your ishtoikikus, your ritzoinus, and you're going to start having a new path and a new eitzah, your own eitzah. Not just the eitzah that was given down for Rab Nosson to Rab Avram, Rab Nachman, but you are going to find eitzahs. Like this eitzah of Simcha, it's our biggest challenge. Before we start the Torah, it is the biggest challenge in the world. Now, most people, I don't know about you, but before I learned the Torah, I was there. If you asked me, what kind of guy are you? Are you a happy guy? Are you a sad guy? I'm a pretty happy guy, until I learned this Torah. First of all, I just want to tell you, good news and bad news is, every time you learn a Torah and you go into it be'in, you start getting challenged with what you're learning. You start seeing it in life. Every single Torah that we're learning, all of a sudden, so what's Pshat? The Pshat is that I was not in awareness that I had this challenge until the Rebbe exposed me to the challenge. He showed me that I'm in this challenge. Am I Ba'atzvis? Am I Marshcher? You know, Marshcher. That's the guys that are jumping, the depression guys. That's not me. I'm not a... What is Marshcher? What is Atzvis? Maybe we have a different perception of it. So let's go into the Torah. And tonight, I want very, very much, David should help me, that I want to try to come every night this week, because I'm going away till after Shavuos next week. So I figured, and he told me about the guy, I said, I really want it to work. We had another kollel on the other side of town. They just called me tonight about reopening. I'm open to it. But the Rosh Hashiva called me and he said, I got this. So I'm trusting in the Rosh Yeshiva, and the only reason why I'm coming is not to tell you that this is the way to learn Likutei Moharan. Everybody has their way, and everybody will find their way. But the way of questioning the Rebbe, that's what I want. And what I want to try to be, there's many Chedushim here, but I don't want to say Chedushim. I want you to say Chedushim. But you have to start listening to the questions. And when we're going to start, you're for sure going to say to me, come on. Okay, that question was a question. But this question, no. Every question is a question. Why? Because we're surrendering right now. We know nothing. I take all your Yiddishkeit and all your Torah that you knew till now, put it on the side, Nestalkim and Atzad, for a half hour. Anybody object? Please tell me now. Then because then this might not be for you. Then I might not be for you. Okay, let's go into the Torah. There's no more pamphlets. I have a couple of them in the car. I'll make sure you get more. Okay, so Torah Chav Gimel. We'll start with Torah Chav Gimel. Stam, before, just to give you a synopsis, very, very quickly. Torah Chav Gimel, the Rebbe is talking about the power of Simcha, the inyan of Simcha. That Simcha has such a power that we can convert all the Yogav Anacha and all the Atzis Amarash Chayra into Simcha. That's Torah Chav Gimel. What's Torah Chav Daled? Torah Chav Daled is the Avodah of Simcha. Because there's a major, major question. Sam, I'll start with this. That in Torah Chav Gimel, the Rebbe tells you that the Maila Yisera is to run after the Atzis, confront the Atzis, and bring it into Simcha. And in Torah Chav Daled, the first header of the Torah, the Rebbe says, Mitzvah Gedol Liyaz B'Simcha Tomid, and then he says, Ules Gaber, Laharchik Ha'atzis Amarash Chayra, B'chol Koicha. L'chayra, it's a stira between Chav Gimel and Chav Daled, often a stira. A stira is a Rambam, mamash, a stira in the words, in the language of the Rebbe. I'm not trying to answer questions. We want to live in the question. And if anybody wants to expand on it, my phone number is available. We can talk about it and the theories and mahalchim and different ways. But my focus, I want Be'ezras Hashem Yisbarach, is to focus more on living in the question. And I had a Rebbe, he wasn't Litvak, he was actually a Breslover. Hidmer, Rebbe Birnbaum was a son of Reb Shmuel Birnbaum, and he was my Rebbe, and my Mahalchim learned Likutei Moharan I got from him, and he used to say, and it happened to me a few times in the journey of learning the Torah's Be'in, where mamish thinks sometimes there's a kasha that just sits on you and it sits on you and it sits on you, and you go to sleep with the question and you can be zoicha to wake up with the answer. Your answer doesn't mean it's their answer. By the way, that's another thing. The Rebbe's Torahs are so deep that there's no such a thing as doseh pshat. B'chlal, that language doesn't really work. You know, in yeshivas, I remember I learned in Panovich, doseh the Rashba gemeint. Doseh pshat and toises. We could say that doseh pshat and toises. We could say that this is what we think is pshat. You think that's what the Rashba was so limited to what my brain finally came up to figure out. That's what the Rashba was limited. Same thing, we're talking about Gedolei Olam. We're talking about this is Asagas Alikus. This wasn't brought down because Reb Nachman was brilliant and he was so smart and he came up with some kind of a deep, no. It's Asagas Alikus that he brought down from the highest places. The Rebbe said he took his Torah from the highest place to be able to go down to the lowest place. From the higher you go, it has the ability to go low. The Rebbe said that I brought my Torah down so low that you can't bring my Torah low. I couldn't bring it down any lower. That every single person can attach himself to the Torah. Okay, so first of all, that question is a big question between the two Torahs, and that brings to another question that l'chayra, if the avodah of Simcha is in Torah Chav Daled, and the power of Simcha is in Torah Chav Gimel, l'chayra wouldn't make sense that Torah Chav Gimel should be before Torah Chav Daled should be before Torah Chav Gimel and Torah. Another question, but those are bigger questions. I want to go now into Torah of Gimel and just be medayik. How much time do we have? Just give me a thing. You'll tell me. I'm going. You'll tell me. I want just open space a little bit. Zog the Heilige Rebbe, the Inyan HaSimcha. So first question is, what does it mean, the Inyan HaSimcha? It's a very funny lashon. Anybody who learns Likutei Moharan at all, it's a very different lashon. Even though the Torah right before that, the Rebbe talks about Inyan HaChana, but it's what does it mean, be'inyan? What's the Inyan of Simcha, and what is HaSimcha? HaSimcha behei hayediyah, like HaSimcha. There's some be'inyan Simcha. Simcha, everybody knows what Simcha is, right? We all think we know what Simcha is, even though we don't, because the Rebbe is going to be Megala, a whole new Chiddush in Simcha, yeah? But be'inyan HaSimcha, what does he mean here? Be'inyan HaSimcha, and what is this place of HaSimcha? And it's very meduyik, by the way. Once you go through the Torah, you're going to see the Rebbe keeps changing the lashon between HaSimcha to Simcha and to Sameach. And we need to understand each, what is HaSimcha, what is Simcha, and what is Sameach. And then the Rebbe goes and says, Al Pi Mashal, according to a Mashal. First tell me something about Simcha, and then give me tell me, you're telling me on the topic of Simcha, I'm telling you Al Pi Mashal. It's tell me something, and then tell me, L'mashal, you want to explain something to me, you want to tell me another thing is, Al Pi Mashal, B'derech Mashal, L'mashal. What is this lashon Al Pi Mashal? Another thing is that a mashal is usually when I'm talking about one topic, and I want to, and you don't understand this topic, I'll take another topic as an example that you do understand. In order for you to understand, that means there's a bigger thing that I don't understand, and there's a smaller thing that I do understand. By relating the smaller thing to the bigger thing, I'm able to relate and understand the bigger thing. But usually, I'm taking the mashal from someplace else. The Rebbe is talking about Inyan HaSimcha, and the mashal itself is from Simcha. So, but if you're telling me Be'inyan HaSimcha, how can you tell me a mashal on Simcha if you didn't even tell me what you're talking about? So, in the first 5 words of the Torah, these are questions that if you don't ask these questions, and you may, like I said, you may right now, some of you probably say, come on, seriously, Fried, do me a favor. It's Baruch. Get to the crux of it. The crux of it, the Rebbe is giving a Gilui Niflo here on how to convert Yogim V'Anocha and Atzvus and Morosh Chorah into Simcha. Why are you getting stuck with these small nuances? If you don't ask these questions, you're missing the boat. Doesn't mean that the question is but that you need to train your thought to, otherwise you're not going to hear the message. And then you're going to, all of a sudden, things are going to start opening up. And I could tell you things, but I don't want to say it because I want you to be able, once you start accepting the questions and you start living in the questions, you yourselves are going to start saying things. And I'm telling you, this Koil Yetzer Hashem will bring out a kovetz from Yetzer Rashiva, a kovetz from Chidushim, from each one of them, and Inyan HaSimcha, Be'ez Hashem. And the only way you're going to get there is when you start asking every question. Anybody object so far? Please, I love debates. So we can debate, or we could go weiter. Shalif Fa'amim. Sometimes, sometimes when people, this is the mashal, sometimes when people are smeichim umeragdim, so right away you need to understand that lefa'amim, what does he mean lefa'amim? Sometimes there are people smeichim umeragdim, or sometimes when people are smeichim umeragdim, they grab a guy out, or sometimes when they grab the guy comes in with, where is the some, or all of the above? Where is sometimes? Shalafa'amim, sometimes. When is all the sometimes? Another thing is the lashon. You're going to see the Rebbe keeps changing lashon. Here he says b'nei adam smeichem u'meragdim, and then he says azay choytfim ish echad mi bachutz. Why is he changing the lashon? If it's bnei adam, as a chayt from adam, or if it's ish, then why is he changing the lashon from bnei adam to ish? Smeichim umeragdim. What's the difference between smeichim and meragdim? Anybody? This is easy.
One's an emotion, one's a ma'aseh.
Oh, so let's say it a little bit better. Smeichim is something that I feel internally, and meragdim is how I'm expressing my feeling that's internal. It's a very important thing, because if you look at the whole theme of the Torah is about an internal and an external. That means a pnim and a chutz. There's an ish echad. So then the Rebbe said, let's go back. So as I chayt from ish echad mi b'chutz, they grab. What's this lashon of chayt from? Is a lashon of hostages, capturing. They captured, they snatched, they grabbed the guy from the outside. Shehu ba'atzvus amarash chayre. That this guy is ba'atzvus amarash chayre. So again, if you medayik in the lashon, atzvus is something pnimi. Atzmus is a feeling. Marish Chayre is a state. I'm in a state. It's more severe. I'm trapped. I'm in the black hole. I'm in Marish Chayre. Right? Atzmus is the feeling. And Marish Chayre is also Chitzon is the Gezach. And they bring him in against his will into the circle of dancers. What happened to the Smeichim? Anybody?
They can't bring him into the Simcha, I think.
What happened to the
They
Smeichim?
only physically bring him into the Riku.
Very good. Okay. So you're answering, but if it's a question. It's a question, because if the Rebbe said there was Smeichim and Raglim, why wouldn't he say Smeichim and Raglim? So now you're saying a theory. By the way, it's not the only teretz, but that's the portion of teretz. That's the surface teretz. So the Toichem Echoil HaMeraglim, Umachrichim Oisem Bal Korchoi, Sheyia Sameach Imohem Gamke. And they force him against his will to be Sameach with him also. Anybody have a question on this? How did they force him? So now, one second, let's start like this. First of all, who says the guy that's outside the circle is Ba'atzis Amarash Chayre? But by the way, we've all been on both sides of this. Every single one of us has been, you're either, everybody's married here? Not everybody's married. Okay. You had bar mitzvah? In your bar mitzvah, when you were dancing with your friends or you're dancing with your father, you were in the inside of the circle, Smeichim Umeragdim. You were in the circle, Smeichim Umeragdim. You were in the inyan of Simcha, whatever that means. Now you saw your friend on the outside, and you saw that he's so you pull him into the circle. So we were all on that side, and we were much more on the other side. How many times you go to a chasana, and you're on the outside of the circle, you're just waiting for the Baal Simcha, when he's going to catch my eye, and that's when I'm going to go in, because that's what I came for, to give him the mazel tov. I'm ba'atzvus, because I'm outside the circle. The Rebbe's making a fact here. He's telling you a statement. That the ish echad mi bachutz is always ba'atzvus amarash chayre. What?
Sometimes like that.
Oh, that's the lefamim. Oh, the lefamim. So now you're saying, one second, what's your name? Zevi Olster. Reb Zevi is saying that the lefamim is going on the ba'atzvus amarash chayre. Perhaps.
Even if it's not lefamim, it's talking about this case.
What do you mean? I'm asking you a question. The Rebbe is telling you that the ish echad mi bachutz shehuba, that's the mashal. Shehuba ba'atzvus amarash chayre. So you mean it could be an ish echad bachutz that's not ba'atzvus amarash chayre. That's what you're saying. Yeah. Or is the Rebbe saying that it's impossible, that there is no neutral zone? Here's the question. The question I really want to get to is there a neutral zone? Is there a place that I am not besimcha and I'm not ba'atzvus? Anybody?
Yes.
What's your name over there in the back? Chaim. Is there a neutral zone? What's it? Don't depend. Tell me what you, in your thought till now of what simcha is. Is there a neutral zone? Is there a place in the middle? I'm not ba'atzvus and I'm not b'simcha.
The less simcha is the lack of achos, I would say, than there is.
Unless Simcha, say that again. What do you mean lack of
Not
Atzvus?
having Atzvus or not having negative.
Maybe Atzvus is the lack of Simcha.
Either way, whatever.
It's a big difference.
No, I'm saying if one of them is just the lack of the other one, then there's no middle level, and it's not. Then there is.
Shkoyach. So what is it? I'm asking you, I agree with you. But is there a neutral zone? I'm asking, what do you think? Is there a neutral
I
zone?
would say yes.
You would say yes. I would also say yes. The Rebbe is saying no. Not just from this Torah, the next Torah also. The Asar Minagin, the Simcha is composed of Asar Minagin, and when there's a Kilkol Simcha, there's a Chelas. The Rebbe is saying there is no neutral zone. If I'm not Besimcha, I'm Ba'atzvus. So obviously there's different levels of Atzvus. What I think Atzvus is, so I need to understand that Atzvus is not what I think Atzvus is, and Simcha is also not what I think Simcha is. So that's what I'm trying to get to. I'm trying to show that the Rebbe is now giving you a new revelation in what you're going through in life. Any time that you are not B'Simcha, you are Ba'atzvus. And there's another ayah, the next Torah, the Rebbe says, why do I need both? If I'm B'Simcha, well, it's automatically that I'm not Ba'atzvus, according to what we're saying. Because there's, first of all, there's no neutral zone. Let's take that. Let's try to take that as a platform, even if you don't agree with me. You'll see it on your own. But take it as a platform. There's no neutral zone. And another thing is that if, what is Simcha? What is Simcha and what is Atzvus? That means there's different levels of Atzvus, and what is Simcha and what is Atzvus? And last but not least, I don't know how much time we have, but last but not least, I'm asking. I came to give. So whatever, until you tell me to stop, I'm asking to keep going with questions. But if you want, I'll give you one nice little word. You're gonna say the guy came all the way here just to ask stupid questions. I'll give you something. But I'll lead into it with this thing. What is the force? Now let's take practical. Let's take this mashal and let's take it. Okay, me and Zevi are dancing. A circle needs a minimum of 2 people, right? A minimum of 2 people in order to make a circle. And we're dancing, and we're Besimcha. And what's your name? Elchi. And Elchi is on the outside. He's not in the circle, and we grab him into the circle. Let's say Elchi is Taka Ba'atzvus, even though he's not Ba'atzvus, but let's say for a second that he's Ba'atzvus because he's not in the circle. We bring him into the circle, and he goes and he makes a round. You know how many times it happened that you get snatched into the circle by some friend of yours, and you just please him and you go around the circle till you wait for the moment that you can get out of the circle, and nothing happened. Nothing happened. Or there's been a time where Yutaka got into the circle and something about that energy took over and you got into it. What prevented me from not getting into it? And what was the magic that got me inside? The music was great. What was the magic? How did I, Taka get infected by the Simcha of Zevi and Nachman? How did Elchi get infected with that Simcha? What was it? And what's the force? What's the Machrich? She is Sameach. And then, what does the Rebbe mean? Imahem Gamke. What does he mean? That he's going to be Sameach with them. How did I do this?
Why is he running away?
What?
Why is he running away?
And why
would he run away?
He doesn't. It's Balkona.
Same vote.
It's Balkona. Why is he running away? Yeah.
Right.
Okay, why is he running away? The Rebbe says beferish
Right.
afterwards because the Yogam HaNocha runs away from the kedusha, doesn't want to be part of the kedusha because the atzis is really coming from Yogam HaNocha, which I think the key to the whole Torah. The end of the Torah is the key to the beginning of the Torah. But let's understand the mashal. First, the mashal, and I'll tell you another thought here. The mashal is there's 3 steps here. There's step 1 is chaytfim ishachon bebachutz, and the Rebbe doesn't say bal karcha because chaytfim by definition means Bal Korcha. I'm going against. I'm choitif. It's an element of surprise. So there's no will yet. He doesn't even have will yet. I chapped him before he even had a will. And then I was machnisim oisoi Bal Korcha. And then the last one is machrichem oisoi. The question is, how am I being machriach? Machnisim, I choitif, I get. You grab the guy. The element of surprise. Machnisim oizoi, I also get you. Grabbed him, you schlepped him into the circle. What's machrichem oizoi? Where is what? How do I do that? The Rebbe, in the mashal, where's the machrich? I don't even see the machrichem. Either it happened or it didn't happen. Sometimes it's a lottery. Sometimes you get infected by the simcha. So what gets me infected by the simcha, and what prevents me from not bringing samech? In order to understand it, that's what we need to understand. So really, everybody knows the answer. The answer is that there is something preventing me, because if I am looking to be besimcha, there's nothing that prevents me from going straight into the middle of a circle by a wedding, no matter what, whether I know the person, don't know the person. Simchas Torah. When a person wants to dance and covers with the Simchas, he goes into the shul. He doesn't know a soul in the shul, but if he wants to, he's there by the Hakafas. Why? Because he's on a beeline. He is, like the Rebbe says afterwards, Kederech Abal Simcha. That person is Baal. What does it mean, Baal Simcha? Baal Toicha Simcha? What's the lotion? I forgot already. I don't know this Surah Sadaf. That he's on a beeline into Simcha. So we need to understand, where is Simcha? What does it mean? So is Simcha my feeling? Here, another question is, what is Simcha? Is Simcha a feeling? Wake up! Somebody say something. Just say anything. I don't care. Just say something.
Yes, passion.
Oh, it's a feeling. Simcha is a feeling. That's what we understood. Everybody understands. Simcha, I feel besimcha. I'm besimcha right now. What does it mean, besimcha? I feel simcha. Simcha is not a feeling. Sameach is a feeling. Simcha is not a feeling. The Arizal says, besimcha is the oisius machshava. The place of simcha is not in my feelings and my emotions. My emotions are a result. Why do I feel besimcha? Because my machshava, my thoughts control everything, right? If I want to twiggle my fingers, how do I twiggle my fingers? Because I had a thought, the brain transmitted to my finger to twiggle my fingers. When it comes to our emotions, we think that the emotions come to me because of an external circumstance. If I'm in an external circumstance of simcha, so my emotion feels besimcha. If I'm chas v'shalom in a tragic circumstances, then I feel ba'atzvus, then I'm sad. And that what creates my feeling is something external, but it's not true. Everything that is, all my feelings that I feel are coming because I decided to feel this way. Why did I decide to feel this way? Because there was an external circumstance. Chas v'shalom, a bad thing happens, I'm going through a problem or whatever, or a challenge, whatever it is. So the external circumstances got internalized into my thought, and my thought decided and sent a message to my emotions and said, feel sad right now. Or the opposite, feel simcha right now. So if I am not running into the circle, I'm automatically prevented by something external that is not letting and I'm not tracing it back, my feeling. So the external circumstance, what could it be? I don't know anybody here. First of all, I don't know anybody in the circle. I don't feel comfortable over here. You could go with 10, 100 different reasons, external circumstances that will say why I'm not in the middle of the circle. But if I am besimcha, there's nothing preventing me, then I'm automatically in the circle, even if I'm not in the circle. I could be outside the circle, being besimcha even more than the circle is in the circle, because I'm in a state of simcha. How am I in a state of simcha? Because of my machshava. So if that's true, so the Rebbe is being megala something here. And if you're medayik in these words, this is what I'll leave you with for today. If I come tomorrow, Hashem, we'll go back to questions. But I want to give you epis a taste. And again, these are not, my disclaimer is I never, ever, ever attempt to say Pshat in Likutei Moharan. I am saying the way the Rebbe is saying Pshat in me, and this is the message that I got out of it. And this is how it talked to me. And this is what gave me a way of understanding Simcha differently and using it as an Eitz and Simcha. If you're medayik in the Lashon, the Rebbe says, Machrichem oise bal korchoi, sheyesameach imohem gamken. The Rebbe didn't have to say gamken. Could have said, sheyesameach imohem. Machrichem oise liyesameach imohem. What's the gamken? So I thought, perhaps, gamken means also. What does also mean? Means that I was also coming from the same place that you're in right now. Well, I forgot your first name again. What again? Elio. Elio was, we said that Elio, not that he is, but he was outside Ba'atzis Amarash Chayra. I am conveying with my energy, without even talking to the guy, that I am, because what happened before I was Smeichem Meraglim? Where was I before I was Smeichem Meraglim? I wasn't always Smeichem Meraglim, and that's, by the way, the answer to Lefa'amim also. I'm not always Smeichem Meraglim. And even if I'm Smeichem, I'm not always Meraglim. So that means I was also once coming from where you're coming from. And when I can convey that message to you, then you feel a imahem, because the kasha is different. The kasha is also on the imam. How is it imahem? I'm smeichim and meragdim, and Eliyahu is not smeichim and meragdim. So where's the iman? So what if I brought him into the circle? What's the iman? So there's only one of two options how there could be iman. Either I become ba'atzis and marish like Eliyahu, or Eliyahu becomes. But imahem, the teretz is gam kain. Because I'm conveying to Eliyahu with my energy that I also came from the place of Atzis Amarash Chayra, because I had a lack of Simcha, and I got infected by the Inyan HaSimcha. So how do we get to that? So we have to understand, a circle, the Rebbe tells us that the circle is Smeichem HaMeragdim. And he tells us that the Ish Echad Mibachutz is so what's inside the circle?
Good machshavas.
What's inside the circle from the Torah that we learned, from the words that we learned till now? What would you propose? Give me a good proposal here. The Rebbe tells us, he's specific. A guy on the outside is Ba'atzis Amarash Chayra. The circle is Smeichem HaMeraglim. So what's inside the circle? A circle is a boundary. There has to be a pnim and there has to be a chutz. So what's the pnim? The pnim is the inyan hasimcha. You were going in the right direction, but the inyan hasimcha has to be bigger than besimcha. The inyan of hasimcha has to be. The question is, what is it? We're going to leave the question. That question, by the way, is the biggest question on the Torah. The Inyan HaSimcha is the place where if you want the place where Sosim, Simcha, and Yogim Vanocha live together, and then Nesapich. That means, so we need to understand what happened. There's a mechanics here, but you're not going to get to it unless we ask the questions. The mechanics is to give you just a sneak preview. Yogim Vanocha is what is Yogam Vanocha? Let's touch all the things. What's Yogam Vanocha? What's Atzvus? What's Marish Chayra? What's Yisurim? What's Daigas? And what's Chaylas? They're all negative, right? So it starts, whatever it is, which we'll talk about, it starts with Yogam Vanocha, that is nishtalshel, that descends, dilutes itself to Atzvis, to Marishchoira, I'm sorry, Atzvis, Daiges, Marishchoira, Yisurim, Chaylas. That's the way it goes. If you don't catch it by the Yogam Hanocha, it becomes Atzvis. If you don't catch it by the Atzvis, it becomes Marishchoira. You don't catch it by the Marishchoira, it becomes Yisurim. You don't catch it by the Yisurim, it becomes Chaylas. Yogam Hanocha is the place of the original place of separation. Chet Odom Rishon, that was Yogam Hanocha. That's the original place of Yogam Hanocha, because before it was all HaSimcha. There was no such a thing as Yogam Hanocha, because Yogam Hanocha was Nesapach the Simcha. So the place of separation in the Bria started from Chet Odom Rishon. But we all have a place of Yogam Hanocha from the second we're born. The second you come into Olam Hazeh, the Yogam Hanocha is there. Anybody who learned Torah Chav Dalet, the Rebbe talks about the Asarim in the Gina that go into the Asarim in Tfikin. The Tfikin is the physical pulse. The Asarim in the Gina is the spiritual tunes, which we don't know what the heck he's talking about, even though there are other Torahs that he talks about it. But we just accept it, okay, there is some kind of a spiritual music that's going into my Asarim in Tfikin. Whatever that spiritual music is, that's called Simcha. So what is the Tfikin? The Tfikin is the Yogam Hanocha. So all I'm trying to point out here is not to flaunt my way of learning Likutei Moharan. I'm coming to teach that there's so much here, and this is just the mashal. And we'll talk about Hashem. I hope tomorrow or whenever I come back next time, we'll go into a little bit further. It's fascinating, beyond fascinating, beyond fascinating, beyond fascinating. You see, all you're going to see is that you're touching something that's so much bigger. But you'll be able to internalize something and have, Mi'ez Hashem, a real eitzah on the power of Simcha and the avodah of Simcha.